Hello lovelies and welcome to today's video. My name's Alia and I'm so glad you stopped by. Today I'm going to be talking about migraines and some natural hacks and remedies that I've learned through almost 28 years of suffering with migraines and no longer having to suffer. So I hope you stick around. Today's topic is really close to my heart because, well, it's just very personal. I've had migraines since I believe I was probably 8 when they became like a frequent occurrence in my life, and they're also now a feature of my little 8-year-old boy's life as well. Thank goodness his doesn't seem to be as severe of a syndrome as what mine was, but anyway, we'll hopefully it'll stay pretty mild for him. But everyone almost in my family does suffer from migraines, and it does tend to be a familial thing or something that runs in families. So over the years I've learned how to deal with them fairly naturally, and I'd have to say that especially nowadays it probably can mitigate or control maybe 80 to 90% of my migraines, and they don't escalate into a full-on symptomatic type migraine where there's nausea and I've even experienced numbness on one side or weakness on one side of my body. I've experienced visual symptoms almost every single migraine I've ever had. That's usually how they start, is with the eyes, and I'll speak about that in a moment. And yeah, usually it ends up with nausea and vomiting because that's just how it goes. And it can escalate really quickly, really quickly. Now we do have to speak about the fact that migraines are caused by very different things for everyone. So if it's familial, it's likely to be your biochemistry. So if it runs in your family, it's probably something you inherited from your mum or dad, like the way your hormones function or the way your musculoskeletal system works, things like that. A chiropractor I work with did say that something like 90% of all headaches, regardless of whether they're migraines or tension headaches or whatever they are, do actually originate at the neck. Now we have to talk about anatomy for 1 second before we go into all the natural remedies that I've developed over the years and all the different hacks that I've developed over the years. And that is that the atlas, which is the first spinal vertebrae, the first vertebrae, doesn't actually start like here where we think it is. This is not where our neck starts. Our neck actually starts roughly between the ears. So our face comes down quite low. But if you imagine where the back of my head is, if you actually see where my tickle sits, which is right at the base of my head, that's where my ears are. So actually tickles are a really good guide for where head anatomy is. So that's actually a much better indication of where our vertebrae or where our spine starts. Imagine having one little string of beads hanging on to this giant boulder that sits on top of it. So the spine with the giant head on top. A lot of things can go a little bit wonky. So you need lots of muscles and you need lots of tendons and you need really good nerve insertion for all of that to work without a glitch. And it's a really tricky thing to do. I mean, it's tricky to get any anatomy right anywhere around the body, but I think it's extra tricky at the head because these muscles have to be really strong, really balanced to do all these things that we require them to do. The other thing we need to remember is at the very same point where the head and neck attach, there's a lot of neurological and vascular things going on. A lot of our cranial nerves have activity or have some kind of a connection or origin at the base of the head or a brainstem. So the brainstem is the part of the spine that's actually still brain. So it's where that kind of conversion between brain and spine happens, or where the nerves stop being brain nerves and start being spinal nerves. We have even got one nerve that actually travels our whole body called the vagus, known as the vagus because of its traveling nature. But there's 12 cranial nerves and they all have some activity at the brainstem, including the optic nerve, which is probably why a lot of headaches and migraines do have visual symptoms. The other thing to note is that when we sleep, we actually put a lot of pressure on our heads as well. So we think about heads or necks as a postural thing. So when we're sitting or standing, which we do tend to do a lot of this as well when we're typing and, you know, sitting at a computer or whatever, we don't tend to have a good neck and shoulder posture. I certainly don't. And I do blame half my symptoms to that one. But also when we're sleeping, there's also a posture that we have to worry about there. And the way we breathe and just the general sleep hygiene is really important. So that's a really good place to start. Sleep hygiene. We need to have a good, regular, routine sleeping pattern for good mental health, but also for good muscle recovery. Anyone who goes to the gym regularly knows that you need to eat well, sleep well, hydrate well to get good recovery and good results at the gym. And the same is true for us regular folk who don't necessarily look at fitness so very closely, because we also have to have recovery every day. Just because you didn't, run around the block every day or you don't exercise actively, doesn't mean your body doesn't need to actively recover every single day. Even if you spend the day in bed, it would be good to get up and have a stretch before retiring for the night, because it's really important to get the blood circulating. That's the first one. And the other one is that the muscles can get really, really stiff if you don't let them sort of bend and stretch like they're supposed to, or bend and flex as you're supposed to. Or as they're supposed to, I should say. So I really like the idea of, even if you don't feel tension in your neck and you've been sitting a long time, or you've been sort of having a similar activity for an extended period of time, I highly recommend just doing a very simple exercise. You just do this at the back of your... So I'm just going to stand up and show you. Just kind of do that. And then you, as far as your flexibility will allow, you run those fingers right up your spine as far as they will go. Mine make it to the shoulder blades because I do this often, so it's a really good stretch. And it just opens up the scapula, which is these bones here, and stretches out all of this, and does actually pull a little bit at the arms if they're tense. So this is a really good just opening up stretch. The other really good thing is to put a tennis ball at the base of your neck, or what I call my old grandma hump, and stand up against a wall and allow your top of your shoulders just to curl around that ball and open up even more. If you have a roller or some sort of stretching tool, like a yoga tool, great. Don't need it though. It's more than sufficient to have, like I said, like a tennis ball, or if you don't have a tennis ball, just roll up a towel, that sort of thing. Every one of us has things at home to make sure that at least once a day we've really opened up our breathing passages, we've really stretched the muscles around the neck, and it doesn't have to be a long stretch. 20 seconds I find is more than sufficient, and you don't want to do too much because you don't want to also jam something accidentally. So I think overall 20 seconds a day, 40 seconds a day is all we require to have that healthy kind of stretching, and just to remind ourselves to look after our posture like that. The next really important thing, so we've definitely mentioned sleep hygiene, so a regular sleep pattern. Doesn't have to be on the dot every day, but I would recommend going into bed, or just, starting to fall asleep, or at least planning to fall asleep around the same half-hour block every day. So if you don't think it's achievable to be in bed at 10 every day, then don't aim for that. If 11's more reasonable, then aim for 11, but stick to it. Everybody's schedule is different. Some people that are watching this video right now hear the number 11, think, oh my God, that's ridiculous. 9 is the most for me, or oh my God, that's ridiculous. 1 a.m. is the best for me. A lot of studies have shown that if we're not at bed by, I think it was 11:30 or 11, there's something that knocks off our circadian rhythm, or our rhythm of how to kind of calm down and wake up. So 11 is probably the absolute max on a regular basis. We're talking about like a regular routine thing. We're not talking about if you've had a late night and it's sort of out of routine. We're talking about on an absolutely day-to-day basis type thing to aim for. And it may mean that you get up half an hour earlier on the other side and do whatever it is that you do at night in the morning, if that's something that you can achieve. For me, it's packing lunches. There are some nights where I just go, stuff this. I am not doing lunches now. I'm going to do them in the morning because it's just too late. And by the time I actually get to do them, because it's so late, it actually takes me a lot longer to get them done. Because it's late. My brain's just not functioning so well anymore. And that's okay. Pick one thing. It might be, washing the dishes. It might be switching on the dishwasher. It might be whatever it is that you do before you retire at night that you might want to delay for the morning. Allow yourself certain leniencies in order to look after your both physical but also mental health. Now, if you're already feeling a migraine coming on, only stretch, lots of water. I know that seems to be one of the most sort of no-da type of pieces of advice that's out there, but it's true. A lot of us just don't hydrate efficiently, and by the time you're actually feeling headachy, my personal experience is water won't cut it. So my trick is green tea. But any high antioxidant or like a hydrolyte would also work. Type drink is good. If you're someone who actually enjoys drinking water, maybe just pop a slice of cucumber in or a slice of citrus in, just to increase the minerals and vitamins that are coming in through that water, just making it more absorbable. The other thing is to not drink hot or cold water when you're trying to hydrate. You want to drink as close to room temperature as possible. Once you're already not feeling well, or once you've already got a migraine, there's a few things that work for me. One is Panaway oil, which is wintergreen and peppermint oil. Just here at the base of the skull, there's an occipital protuberance I talk about a lot in my tickle videos. It's these two sticking out bits of our base of skull where it's a really great place to put a tickle, but it's also a really great pressure point. So if you just get your fingers right under there, it's a really, really great place to relieve the neck muscles or any kind of head tension. And that's usually what happens with migraine, is you get this really, really severe tension. And migraines are technically defined by like a spasm. So the way to stop that spasm is, of course, to disrupt the muscle that's spasming, or to try and relax that muscle. So rubbing in some peppermint oil or wintergreen oil or Panaway, which is what I use, into the area is really efficient. I also put a little bit of spearmint or peppermint oil here. It just allows good breathing, good airways, and obviously the more oxygen you get, the less of that spasm you're going to feel. Another really great one is to get your feet really hot and the back of your head really cool. For me, spearmint, wintergreen, all that sort of stuff is a really cooling oil. It's actually a hot oil, but it gives you the sensation of cooling because the oil's hot, so your body feels cool. It's like stepping out of a hot shower. You straight away feel really refreshed. It's that sort of feeling, but keeping your feet really, really warm. So I tend to put a blanket on my feet or a hot pack on my feet, or you can even pop them into warm water, like a tub of warm water. Again, the idea is to get the blood away from this spasm and flowing nicely and circulating well. Breathing mint, so been shown to reduce migraines really well. The other point, doesn't work for me, but the other point that works really well for some people's migraines is into the temples. Right here, there's like a little groove between this bone, and this bone. It's like a little groove here. And this little groove is exactly where you want to put any kind of oils to relieve the muscles of the sort of jaw and through the frontalis there. Switching off the lights, getting as little sensation, especially the very beginning of the migraine. You want to take yourself out of light and sound. Even if you're not sensitive to light and sound during migraine, your brain is still overwhelmed with all of that. So just to reduce any kind of extra stimulation, at least if you can catch it early. The other thing is, if you're going to take medication, the advice would be to do it at this point where you're just starting to feel a bit headachy. That's when you take the medication. It's not going to work anywhere near as efficiently later on. I have to also say, a very big hack is magnesium. Whether you do it through your diet, through magnesium-rich foods, just being a staple every day in your routine, or to take whatever the bottle says, take double of a magnesium supplement. Now, magnesium supplements are not all created equally. Just speak to your pharmacist or healthcare professional or naturopath or health food store personnel about which magnesium will not give you the runs, okay? So magnesium supplements are muscle relaxants, but you want the ones that are going to really absorb into the bloodstreams, not the ones that are going to loosen your bowels. So you can just paint a pretty picture from there. Another one is to keep a diary. And this is a really serious one. This is a really big commitment, but I really could not recommend more. In the early days of migraine suffering, you absolutely should, whether it's just in your phone calendar or wherever it is that you can, like a little post-it note, just whatever it is, write down the time, the date, and the migraine, like what you're feeling. Even if you do it like straight after the initial symptoms have calmed down, just while you still remember, or tell someone to do it for you. That's important because you need to know what your triggers are. Some people cannot have coffee after 11 a.m. That's going to give them a migraine. Some people need to reduce their salt. In fact, all people need to reduce their salt, but that's another video. And that can give them increased migraines. For me personally, my body needs a break from food altogether. I found that fasting from 8 to 8 has been my biggest savior. If I take a break between 8 and 8, my 12-hour gap, it can be 9 and 9, it can be 7 and 7, just depending on what my routine is. But I can't go, say, from 8 one night and 10 the next night. That just won't work. It needs to be quite gradual if I'm going to be shifting the boundaries like that. But yeah, 12 hours overnight fasting for me has been an absolute game changer. Not only have I lost a lot of weight over the period of 3 years, but also I feel so much better. And gut. And this is where it really comes in. We have to remember that, especially people with any kind of chronic inflammation, so migraine is part of that, or any kind of autoimmune triggers, so even if it's just allergies, you have to remember that your gut is your absolute powerhouse. It is our engine. The brain cannot function. The nerves cannot function. Our blood streams cannot be legit, cannot be healthy without a good gut. So sometimes it just means things like probiotics, reducing acids, or sometimes increasing acids or changing the type of acids, so alkalizing your gut. Supplements, definitely, like magnesium. Sometimes it's things like flaxseed to make the blood runnier, so like a natural blood thinner. Flaxseed oil is a really good one. Fish oil can do it too. I just don't know where fish oil is sourced always, so I don't like to recommend fish oil. Flaxseed is usually sourced really, like you can really easily trace the source of the flaxseed, and you can get a nice organic fresh flaxseed pretty easily, like you can most vegan oils. And also just knowing your body, and that's where it comes back to the diary, the journaling. If you can start to recognize or just be aware, alert to your body and what it requires and what it maybe can't handle so well, you can then work on detoxing from that thing and then slowly reintroducing, and then you'll understand where your tolerances are. Before I wrap up, I just want to tell you guys the difference between an optic migraine and a retinal detachment, because I think that's really, really important. Optical migraines tend to, or visual migraines tend to present themselves as starbursts, like a little bit like, you're running through a galaxy. There's just little twinkles of lights. They're usually two eyes because it's happening at the brain. It's not happening in the actual eye itself. It might be one eye more than the other. I might be noticing it more in one eye than the other, but usually it will be two. So the other thing is, if you close your eyes, it'll still be there. And the other thing to look out for is colors. Prisms, kaleidoscope type appearance. Like I said, starbursts. So my stars happen to be blue and green. Little stars, like whitish, but they tend to go towards the color spectrum. Other people have described other things, but it tends to be colorful, both eyes, and pretty random. Retinal detachments will be in one very distinct spot. It'll keep going without any other symptoms. You'll often get really a huge insurgence of black spots, so darkness, not brightness. So you get this bright flash or a bright crescent, and it'll be on and off type of sensation. Many people almost describe it like when a car drives by. It's just that flashlights go away, and followed often by either veiling or like a cobweb type appearance, or lots of little black dots. Now that's a retinal activity. It'll be on one eye, and it'll be over the course of a period of time, sometimes days, sometimes weeks, sometimes years, just depending. And that's the kind of thing you want a dilated exam at an eye specialist for, whether it's your optician or an ophthalmologist, to really look at the back of the eye. Migraines, on the other hand, as much as an ophthalmologist can help, that's just not necessarily our bag. It's more of a maybe neuro-ophthalmologist or a neurologist's type field, if they're very severe, or if they're fairly minor and not too disruptive to your daily life. A naturopath is actually the best way to go, believe it or not, because you want to balance out your body. You don't necessarily want to treat it medically every time, although that's also a very viable option. I hope you enjoyed today's video, my lovelies. There is a lot to say. Migraines are a journey for everybody. Everybody's migraine experience and life is very different. Even my migraine story is different to my mum's, and I hope will be different to my son's. Mine has been probably the most severe of my entire family, but I've also been the one that has learned to control it and live with it the best. And I do think that the severity is what encouraged me to be so astute with it all. And it's been great because I can now pass on those hacks to you guys and to my kids and to anyone who'll listen. If you enjoyed today's video, please do hit like. It helps me out to know that you enjoyed today's video. Leave me a comment if you have any questions or any suggestions or any topics that you want me to speak to. I also am going to add to switch on the notification bell, because I've got 2 kids, I've got 2 jobs, so these videos have become a tiny bit on the random side, but I am posting as close to weekly as I possibly can. Midweek always seems to work best, but if you don't want to miss anything, definitely hit that notification bell, because YouTube algorithms are way over my head. I don't understand them. For more stuff in my crazy world, definitely check out Instagram, see what I'm keeping busy with and what's keeping me away from these videos more regularly. Definitely check out Instagram. Wherever you are around the world, my lovelies, I hope you're having an amazing day, you're staying healthy, and I can't wait to see you on the next one. Bye.